So when we're doing the Excel part for the lab, I'm going to go through, assume that you know very little about Excel. Skip the parts that you already know and are boring to you, but you never know what you might pick up. So we have our modified outward lab. We're doing the part where we find G. There's actually two ways that we're going to find G. I'm going to run through the line of best fit way first, and then we'll just crank out the averages. So trials, 1, 2, and then what I would do is this. Go to fill series. It'll increase by 1. So I hit OK. And I only had 10 trials, so we'll get rid of those 2. And we'll center those because it looks nice. All right, and in all of my trials, the lighter of the two masses was 0.25 kilograms. So probably should be official. We should probably note that here that this is in kilograms for each of these. And this acceleration will be in meters per second per second. And the quantity that you see in this block, in this column right here, is actually going to be unitless because it's going to be kilograms divided by kilograms, so there will be no unit. And everything in here is going to be centered, so let's just do that. Another thing you can do to make things a little more visually pleasing is to put borders around it all so that you see what you're doing a little better. So 0.25. Instead of entering it in every one of the blocks, you could just grab it and highlight all the way down and hit Control D, as in dog, or down, because that's what that means. Control down, boom. You do that. For mass 2, my values were that for the first 2, actually the first 3. And then it was 0.7 for a few trials. For those, and there were the rest were 0.9. And my third mass was the following: 0.523, 0.723, 1.023, same thing. Same. This one. I can do Control C, copy it, and put it here. Control V will paste it. And actually, this one should be 1. And this is the. Okay. So there are my mass 3s. Accelerations, I'll put those in right now since I have them here in front of me. One of them's 1.2553, 0.989, 0.803, 2.235, 3.00, 2.513, 1.668, and 2.384, and 2.929, last but not least 3.853. Now this data is different than what you will see on my lab report that I posted on Schoology, and that's fine because I didn't love that data. I realized after doing it that for whatever reason higher accelerations tended in that data to give me a better result. So I did it again the other day in class and got some new data. Okay, now this column, this is going to be the difference of mass 1 and 2 divided by the sum of all the masses. Anytime in Excel that you wanted to do a calculation, so let me make this really clear, by the way. Stop for a second. let Excel do the work. Do not go and figure out what this is using these numbers off to the side and then enter the number into here. You're completely missing the point of how awesome Excel can be. Here's what I mean. When we go to calculate this, we're going to do the following. So when you go into Excel to put a formula in to get it to calculate, the first thing you enter is equals. Boom. Now, I'm going to use parentheses for the top, for the numerator, just like you see up here. So I'm going to go M1 is right here. So I hit M1. Oh, shoot, I switched. Look at that. I switched my M1 and M2. M1 should be the heavier one, right? So let's take a second. Let's fix that. So let's see. What can I do to fix that? I know that's 0.25. So I'm going to take this column. I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to paste it. And then we're going to put the 0.25s over here because they were masked 2. Control down. Center them. Order it. There we go. Okay, now we're in better shape. My apologies. So I hit equals. And I do M1 minus M2. Boom. So I notice I click on the blocks. It says, when I say M1 minus M2, it goes straight to the reference for the cell. So that's B4 minus C4. I hit a parenthesis, divided by, it's your slash. Now, I'll use a parenthesis. I tend to overuse parentheses in places I don't need them just because I'm worried about not having them. Usually it's okay to have too many parentheses, but if you don't have enough, you can get in trouble. Now I could do I could click this, and that would work. I could go, in fact, I'll show you what that would look like. You could do this. Go M1 plus M2 plus M3 and end my parentheses. That would work just fine. It's not that hard. Another option would be to do this, is to type the word sum, hit a parenthesis, and then just highlight everything you want it to sum, those 3. End your parenthesis. And I got another parenthesis there just to keep it in the denominator, which I don't think is going to be an issue. Either way, either method, I hit enter. Boom, gives me a number. Now, here's the cool part. I don't have to type that again. If I take this and I scroll it down, I highlight down, and I hit Control D, it will automatically shift the cells it's using. For example, notice with this one, it uses B5 minus C5. So it's shifted, it's using these values right here and here. So it does that automatically for you. So we're in good shape. Now I'm seeing what this says. Alright, and this is one we could ignore, because it's not really an error. Don't even worry about it. So, I now have that value. Let's do this. We don't need all those decimal places. That's not being realistic. So I highlight everything. I right click it, and I get Format Cells down here. Click that. Number. And I would only like, let's go 3 decimal places. Okay. There we go. Alright. So now we're going to get a best fit. This is my X. This is my Y, based on what we talked about in the other video. So now I'm going to highlight both of those columns together, and I'm going to go to Insert, Scatter, just a this choice right here. I don't know what these lines are, to be honest. We're just going to go with this regular old scatter plot. Boom. Look at that. Already see the linear trend. Not sure about this guy. Outlier. So, by the way, if you hover over it, let's see, it's going to be 0.243 is the X. So it's data point 8 or 9, it looks like. Interesting. Yeah, you know what? Something's goofy there. See, that tells you something right there. That point is goofy, and that means something. So let's go explore that. See if I made a mistake somewhere. I doubt that these 2 data points are exactly the same. So I'm thinking I typed something in wrong. Yes, as a matter of fact, I seem to recall this is 1.0. Now notice, I make the change here. This will change. And that point should change as well. There it is. Now it's in line with the others. So that it looks like a nice fit, nice line there. We're going to find the best fit equation for that line. So I go to my graph and I right click on, I hover over a data point and I right click. It'll highlight all of them. I go down to here and I say add trend line. Linear. I would like the equation on the chart because I need to know the number for the slope. And just to see if the data looks good, we'll put this r squared value on the chart as well. Other than that, we don't need to do anything else. It's all set up for us. So close. There's our equation. And our value for G is 10.116. Not bad. 9.8, 10.116. I can live with this. The R value is exceptional. It's 0.9974. It's a really good correlation. I think we can see that from just looking at the data. The only other thing I would do if I was putting this in a lab report is, let's see, we can do chart type, format chart area. You know what we'll do? We'll just right click on format axis. So what I did is I right click on one of the numbers here. Right click on it. It says format axis. Let's see if we can get a title in here. Number fill title. No, that's not it. I know there's a way to do it. We can do this. Yeah, I figured it out. Instead of, I paused it and figured it out. Instead of clicking on the axes over here, if I go to layout up here, so if I click on the chart, this pops up. I go to layout, axis titles. Bam. So primary horizontal axis. Title below it. And we're going to call it that complicated formula. So it's going to be M1 minus M2 divided by M1 plus M2 plus M3 parenthesis. And I'm just going to point out that it does not have units. We'll do the same thing for the other axis. So then we'll go axis titles, primary vertical, I think this will work. So we'll go acceleration in meters per second I don't know. Maybe, well, it doesn't matter. So maybe we could do it in a different format, but we'll just run with it. Chart title. So I click on that. Alright, our chart title is going to be, I would generally always start with the Y, acceleration, versus that, and then I would say for modified Atwood Machine Lab. That works. And now if I wanted to print it for the purposes of the lab and put it into my lab notebook, I could. I can right click on it, or actually in this case, let's see what it does. If I hit File, Print, I believe, yes, it will just print the chart itself as long as I've clicked it. You can tell you've clicked it and it's highlighted if, notice the line here is thin, but as soon as I click on it, it becomes that gray frame around it, and you get this stuff up here. So I can go to File, Print, and then I can send it to my printer and print it out and stick it into my lab notebook. Okay, so that's how to find it using the best fit line. Let's go through real quick. Same data, so we'll except we're going to do one thing differently. we'll take this table and copy it, and we'll go down here and work down here. So same table, except I need one more thing. From the video, you might recall that to calculate the G, value of G, I actually don't use this. I use the total mass, the M1 plus M2 plus M3, divided by M1 minus M2. So it's the reciprocal of this. It's this thing, it's this right here, upside down. So I'm going to put that one in there. I'm going to go to this, let's see, we'll go here, and I'm going to type in M1 plus M2 plus M3 divided by M1 minus M2. But here's the cool thing. I'm going to just tell it to, I'm going to hit equals, and I'm going to say that this cell is going to be equal to 1 divided by this, whatever's in that cell. That's going to give me the reciprocal. I don't have to type all this garbage in using cellsing. I can just tell it to flip that upside down. I hit enter, and then I'm going to scroll down and hit Control D, right? Control D will bring it down. I'm going to format that a little bit. We're going to center it. I only want number, 2 decimal places, probably okay. Boom. And I'll put borders around it, all borders. Now, I'm going to make a column for G. My experimental value for G, if you recall, is going to be my acceleration times this value. So in this cell, I'm going to hit equals this times this. And then scroll down. I'll highlight down and hit Control D. And once again, I'll take this out to a couple places. So we'll go Format Cells, Number, a couple places. I'll go 3 just to see what's going on. And then there. And then in this case, let's see, we'll put the things around it. And in this case, I want to find the average of all those values. So we're going to hit equals, type in the word average, and look what pops up. There's a function for that. I'm going to do the average of, and I highlight those. All those values. Close the parentheses and hit enter, and there you go. No adding them up and dividing by the number because the computer does it for you. So my average is 9.547. Bad. To give you a feeling of how crazy the data is, how spread out it is, we're going to do the standard deviation. So I'm going to do equals, type in ST, there it is. I believe we want the one for population. It might be sample. I don't think there's that much of a difference between them. In fact, we could check. So instead of typing all this out, if you just double click it, it'll show up. And same thing, I want it for this group of numbers here. And so this is like your plus or minus. That data, might be 9.547 plus or minus this 0.354. So it's a little bit spread, but not the end of the world. In fact, if we add 0.354, so we could do that, right? We could say, let's see what our range is. Our range would be, if I did, let's say, I'll make this one equal to this number plus, now we'll do minus, minus this number. I don't do parentheses. And up to, this is going to equal, always type equals first, this plus that. All right, so I range from 9.2 up to 9.9. All right, so 9.8 is within that value, so I'm pretty confident that we're not doing too bad there. That we got our value was our experiment was pretty good, and certainly I'm pretty good with the 10.116.